Alright, man. I'm gonna start by saying all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Harakah, Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the whole four elect. Shalom.
Uh,
I want to grab anything for you.
no, man, I'll read this. First Peter's 1 and 1. I'll start from 1. Does it Peter actually? Okay, yeah. Peter, an apostle of Yahweh Shai Mashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High the Father, through sanctification of the Spirit, unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahweh Shai Mashiach, grace unto you and peace be multiplied. And there's even just those two verses. There's a lot there, because that's something that this will get read in the church. They're just gonna be like, yeah, you see, the Gentiles, but that shows they don't really have the spiritual understanding. And because there's what to the strangers scattered, and that's something that now, in this present time, that's really been a state of Jake by and large. Even when you're dealing with like the bulk in the states, they were all at that state of being strangers, and had to be basically brought back into the fold through the Spirit. And that's something and going back to the ancient world, that's something that was around then as well. So, and these are the things that you had men that were walking around. They would look like what's examples like Justin Bieber, Leonardo DiCaprio. You got all these examples of men that you just look at carnally, and then you'll think, oh, it's just so-called white man, so-called Chinese man, so-called heathen nation. But what, through the Spirit, the Lord had it revealed that, oh, no, you got Israelites that's scattered among them. And that's something that's been known. You go through the scriptures, it's been known. That's why it's like 2,000 years ago, these things are known. Because you go to Acts chapter 2, then it has it from there. You can grab that if you like as well. Acts chapter 2 has it breakdown. It's like, what? They came from all over. And then that's why it's like them speaking in tongues and all them languages. It was like, yo, how are these men, these unlearned men, able to communicate with all the Jews that came from all these different regions?
I'll read that for you now, yeah.
John.
Alright, it's Acts chapter 2 and 1. It says, and when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all in one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as a fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. And there was dwelling...
Yeah, speak with other tongues. Because you go to the church, they're going to have a guy having a fit, doing 3 backflips, going shalabababa. That's all complete nonsense. That guy's, he's getting visited by demons, man. When you deal with speaking in tongues, it's what? The languages, man. And that's something you can go through. You go through GMS, you're getting the word delivered to you in a multitude of languages, man. All kinds of languages. You go through, there's all kinds of lessons, the truth's coming out all over the globe. And that's how spirits work. Because it's happened back then, it's happening again, where you're having a word going out, and you're having people wake up in all these different languages. So, hey, that's how the Lord gets down.
Just on the point of the Allah Shabababa and all that type of stuff. So it says, this is 1 Corinthians 14 and 9. It says, so likewise you accept ye utter by the tongue words ease to be understood. How shall it be known what is spoken? For ye shall speak into the air. There are, it may be, so many kinds of voices in the world, and none of them are without signification. Therefore, if I know not the meaning of a voice, I shall be unto him that speaketh a barbarian, and he that speaketh shall be a barbarian unto me.
Yeah, if you're gonna just speak to a guy, it's in England, and you're gonna start speaking in Mandarin, and he don't know what the fuck you're saying. Basically, there's no edification being done. Nothing's being gained. It's he's essentially bringing confusion, because he's just gonna be like, he ain't gonna get nothing from it. You're not gonna understand him.
I got a bit
But then
more.
what? And that's all these churches. What are they saying? What language is that? Done.
I've got a bit more. So verse 12, it says, even so ye, for as much as ye are zealous of spiritual gifts, seek that ye may excel to the edifying of the church. Wherefore let him, Salakia.
Oh yeah, because it's like, you know, like the apostles, the disciples became apostles. They were speaking in tongues. There would have been men that were zealous to get the gifts for that, for healing, to prophesy, all these different things. But then what? It's about edification. It's about feeding the sheep. That's what, you know, the focus has to be on. Because then it's if for example we're like now to just start speaking a language, completely different language, but not, you know, majority, like, because we're in the UK as well. So if we ain't speaking English, we can do lessons in other languages, but by and large, it's going to be English that people kind of expect and where the edification is going to come from.
And that's why the King James 1611, the translation we go by, most predominantly throughout the camps, is where it is. Because the Lord put the Spirit on King James and the men that he had, the scholars, to basically make this with the Apocrypha in it. And that was done because we're going to be predominantly speaking English in these days. Alright? Let me just, a couple more verses just to the point. Wherefore let him that speaketh in an unknown tongue pray that he may interpret. For if I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding is unfruitful. What is it then? I will pray with the spirit and will pray with understanding also. I will sing with the spirit and I will sing with the understanding also. Else when thou shalt be blessed with the spirit, how shall he that occupieth the room of the unlearned say Amen at thy giving of thanks, seeing they understandeth not what thou sayest?
Yeah, so it's when you're dealing with man, it's got, you got to speak in a language that can be understood, and that's other. It's like I said, through the spirit, it's gonna kind of be knowing what you're doing. But then it's like if them guys are around, they're not gonna understanding. They're like, how they gonna grow thereby? Kind of need to give it to them so they can get. And that's why it's like if someone asks a question on the comment board, and then you reply in Italian to a question in English, then it's nothing's gonna be gained. But that's these guys in the church. What are they doing? They ain't even going by a tongue you got on the earth. These men are just gibberish. Where it's like, okay, what's a guy going shalom, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what are you gaining from that? That's just that shows there's some groves, man. They're doing their worship onto completely heathen practices, man. Which that's not something new. The groves are old, man.
I got a bit more in Acts 2, just to get the point. So it says, verse 5, and there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven. And when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language.
Yeah,
and
every man heard him speak in his own language. Because that's what was the so surprising. That's what everyone was so shocked about. These men say, "Oh, are they with new wine? You know what's going on? How these men speak in these languages?" But then that's what it's what through the spirit. And that's why it's like now you got the word, you got brothers coming, waking up, and it links up with Israelite foreigners. Because really, you got brothers scattered among all these other nations. That's why it's like they'll grow up, they're speaking that. There's what they hear the word, then they can push out the word in that language as well, and edify and bringing brothers that way, wake up the elect that way. That's why it's all through the spirit. That's why it's like if you're if you don't understand Israelite foreigners, you can get like Isaiah 11. It's how's prophecy gonna work? You go to Deuteronomy 28:64. It's like what the scattering needs to happen, but then what? It's also the gathering as well. In the end, Amos as well, Amos 9. Because building a house back together, there's gonna be the bulk in the Americas, but it's gonna be what from the four corners. You don't know?
Just the last bit. Okay. Verse 7. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born? and then it goes into the different places.
Okay.
But that's the point.
Yeah. So back in Peter. So Peter 1 and 2, 1 Peter 1 and 2 says, elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High the Father, through sanctification of the Spirit, unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Grace unto you and peace be multiplied. Yeah, and it says what? The elect according to the foreknowledge. So this is dealing with election. Those have been chosen, it's been set. And that's why it's like the heathen can't come in. Israel was already chosen. From before even Abraham was on the scene, before Enoch was on the scene, it's from the jump, before the worlds were formed, Israel was chosen. And that's really why any kind of frustration, the elites of Esau are trying to do at this stage, is completely in vain. It's futile. But that's why it's such a spiritual thing to get this truth. It needs to be revealed to you, because that's something when you're dealing with the carnal, when you're dealing with the flesh, what's it called? Even reincarnation. That's something that people really like. That's above and beyond the majority of people out here. They ain't understanding it. Then you got the what is it? East Indians, man. What's it?
Yeah, I was
like
thinking
the
the
Hindus.
same thing. Hindus.
They've got their reincarnation, but they're saying you're gonna come back as a fly or as a cow.
And that's the first thing people will say the moment you mention reincarnation.
But that's confusion. Because why? It's you deal with it in the script. It's in the text. It's plain. It's like that which is known has been named already, and it's known that it's man. It's men that are reincarnating in the flesh. So that's why it's and that's you ain't just gonna have an Edomite just all of a sudden come up and be an Israelite. They ain't how it works out. The Lord's basically divided the nations, man. So that's why it's those that have been chosen, and why it's like this thing is it's a fulfillment of a promise, man. It was promised onto a nation, because just like Abraham was around. That's why it's like they say, oh, it was promised unto Abraham, blah blah blah. Was he an Israelite? This that. I'm like, that means you don't have to understand it, because you then don't know that this is the same spirit coming back. So Abraham's gonna be in the kingdom. He ain't gonna be a heathen neither. That's But Ishmael is. Okay. So that says what? Verse 3. Blessed be the Most High and Father of our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, which according to his abundant mercy have begotten us again unto a lively hope by the resurrection of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach from the dead. So that's going back. You go to Matthew 1:21, the first chapter of the New Testament. It says what? He called his name Yahweh Shai because he'll save his people. That's who the Lord's dealing with. The Lord's basically set all this has been set up, man. Why go back to what is it? Second Esdras made the world for our sakes. That's what the Lord's doing, man. He's basically all this has been done for the sake of Israel. Because why? Going into the kingdom is going to be what? His first begotten son and nation of Israel basically setting their kingdom and ruling. Righteousness ruling on the earth. And all the worlds we're going to span to. Because why? That's what the Lord's that's the end game. But what is all this carnality, all this is just for now. Even Esau's transitory. From back in Job, Old Testament, it says what? The triumphing of the wicked is short. So that's why it's like people are caught up in the carnal. Because Esau's done, he knows the power of images, man. That's why it's like he had the camera from like the 1800s, and then it's like the video recording, putting the moving pictures together. He's used that Hollywood, that motion picture business. That's how he's controlled the perceptions of a lot of the people, man. Because that's what they live. That's how they visualize history now, according to what Esau crafted, and that's something Esau knows from back in the day. You go to Maccabees, they laid open the book of the law, and then in there Esau painted these images. He knew the power of images from back then. So these, and that's why it's spiritual as well, to be able to see the the world, the world to come. Because the Lord has to basically open up your mind to see like, oh, Yahweh Shai is a so-called black man to seeing the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians on thrones ruling the earth. Who here is thinking about them? Like the mad thing about Gad is like people don't even really know or remember about Gad. Like Gad's really treated like an endangered species, and it's kind of wild because it's like you think man were like historically man were all over the Americas doing their thing, and it's like Esau's just come in and completely smashed them. They're barely known or recognized or anything, especially internationally. So it's just like that, and that's the thing is, even if you're going back, really all people remember is like from cowboy movies or whatever, historicals, what are they called? Well, Wild West kind of flicks, where it's just them just getting lenged up, or you had a white boy playing them anyway. Yeah, so it's wild. Esau's basically done what? You got something?
Getting it.
Yeah, Esau's basically done work using them images to get people completely bugged.
One sec, yeah, okay. Alright, shit, I'll just go here. Let me just read it from there. So it's the book of, actually I was there, I knew it, man. 2 Corinthians 10:3 says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High Yahweh, to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of the Most High Yahweh, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Yahweh Shai, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled." So the point being is that we're set up we're set up in righteousness against wickedness, and in saying that we're set up in righteousness against wickedness, what wickedness we set up against? The wicked imaginations, all right, to bring it into the imagination of the Heavenly Father, all right. So all this that Esau's conjured up through imagery is part of his imagination, but he's basically giving it life through like an imagery. Like there's a thing known as I did a video years back, man, called going into the television, breaking down the word television, because the television basically, the apostles went into it. The television is basically a breakdown of the Urim and the Thummim. Basically, when you break down the word television, television basically is perfection and lights, whereas the Urim and the Thummim is lights and perfection. All right. So you can see it's set up as the Lord deals in duality. Esau's got his Urim and Thummim, which is basically the Urim and the Thummim would basically, if there was a judgment that the high priest needs to go to the Heavenly Father before him to get that judgment, they'll basically give him the judgment for a direct link to the Heavenly Father, showing you the reality of the situation, the vision basically of the Heavenly Father and the truth of the situation. Whereas Esau, with the TV, the television, it's an imagination, but when you go into it, it's basically projecting something that where art imitates life basically, or life imitates art, where you project something onto the people and then they follow after it. And that's why even today you got like, you could take an example like with I remember there was a brother sent me like kind of put me up on the Disney effect or something like that, where through the way it was a documentary called How Television Ruined Your Life or something like that, and it's like that's why you got women trying to get like their Disney life and all this type of shit because they watch
Hollywood life kind of thing. Well,
yeah,
Hollywood romance. That's why they call it Hollywood romance.
Yeah, and that's why you got that bloody idiot what's her name, Meghan Markle, saying about she feels like Ariel, that she's got she's found her voice again and now she's gonna set everything right. What are you talking about, man? You married, you're just an actress, man. You ain't of no relevance to go up against it, to be at odds with the royal family. You just wanted your Disney princess story. That's all you wanted, and that's why you even referencing someone like the Little Mermaid as a reference point.
They were gonna make Ariel black as well. like the live action film. Funny enough, so that's probably
Well, that
why
goes
she
into
mentioned it.
Ariel Allah, because that's Ariel
Yeah.
was mentioned in the book of Isaiah.
Mhm.
But like,
Woe unto Ariel.
yeah, so like,
Yeah, woe unto Ariel. That's
she
what-
didn't learn. She didn't know the scriptures, man. So that's really what it is. Like, it's again, Esau's imaginations have great power over the masses of people that don't have this knowledge of Yahweh Bar Shem El Shai Bar Shama Rakar Kodash, because they don't know it. They've been given over to Esau's wickedness, basically.
Yeah, and that's why Bluebeam's gonna have the impact it's gonna be able to have. Because why? It's everyone's out here with complete faith.
In this devil.
Yeah. So it says back in 1 Peter 1, verse 4, to an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled, and that fadeth not away, reserved in heaven for you, who are kept by the power of the Most High, through faith unto salvation, ready to be revealed in the last time. Yeah, when that time where it's being revealed, because it's all this happened throughout the scriptures, all the prophecies. Now it's all gonna come to pass. Because that's the thing, is this is the absolute simplicity of trying to do away with the Old Testament and say like, oh, it's just the New Testament now. There's prophecies in the Old Testament that still ain't played out, man. Going back to Genesis, going back to the first book, there's prophecies from the first 5 books that still ain't played out in this, that are set for this time. These things still need to come to pass. The word can't go out void. Ain't just gonna be like, oh, Israel's salvation is only for Israel. Then it's just, the words gonna completely flip and chop and change between the Old and New Testament. It was the basically the nature of the deal. Because what Yahweh Shai basically made it so that Israel will get another chance, and basically can achieve that perfection, to where we can keep the law correct. So that's really what, and that's the lack of spiritual understanding was not having it revealed to you. And it's now is the time where it's being revealed, because all the lies have been running rampant, especially since Esau's come in. The lies have gone to a completely absurd scale. Everyone's out here with utter faith in Esau's system, in even a white Jesus, man, that white meat, Cesare Borgia, all these different kinds of religions, all these different kind of channels. People having faith in the science. They call it the Enlightenment, when Esau started coming in with all these scientists, psychologists, all these different aspects, where it really bewitched the people. Because why? It's that they were following after that false light, man. So that's why everything's gonna come to light, and it's gonna be revealed. Because that's why it's Hosea chapter 1, like it says, those that were saying like, oh, you're not the sons of living power, everyone's gonna know. So the Lord's basically gonna let it be known who His elect are. It says, wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, you're in heaviness through manifold temptations, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perish, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and glory, and honor and glory at the appearing of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Yeah, the trial of our faith, because that's what we're witnessing, going through now. This is why we basically it's who's going out and doing the work, who's doing their videos, who's staying in the spirit, who's being brotherly, being charitable among the brotherhood. These things are basically being made clear. Because the guys that aren't doing that, they're the ones that says what? Mark them that cause derision. Because then you got the cats that ain't been going out for years, or they've been pushing in, bringing in damnable heresies. These guys are getting marks put upon them. Because why? And that's why that whole all Israel coming together, that's just not going to come to pass. There's, going back to Zechariah, it said what? There'll be, 2/3 will perish, and then 1/3 is going to be pulled through the fire. So then what? Given that, then it's what? It's a matter of there's them trials and tribulations. There needs to be a separation between those that are doing the work, those of the elect, essentially between those of the elect and those that aren't. And that's become evident. Because what the church is completely done. No one's talking about Christians. No one's even talking about Muslims. No, really, it's only about the word, the truth. Because that's all of a sudden, it's become the hot topic. Because why? Everyone's seeing what's coming to pass. And who was speaking of that before? Even among those that know they're Israelites, not everyone was talking about prophecies, talking about this place coming to an end. That's something that mainly as well, GMS has been at the forefront of pushing it out. Because why? This is the time where you're seeing all these things happen. And then that's where the faith comes in. Because when it comes to, like, for example, the Maxine, the mark of the beast, these things, it's where your faith is going to be tried, man. That time of Jacob's trouble.
I got a precept, yeah. So this is Sirach 6 and 18. It says, "My son, gather instruction in thy youth up, so shalt thou find wisdom till thine old age."
And there's a quote, I believe it's by Adolf Hitler actually. It says, well, I don't know if it's actually him, but it says, "In youth we learn, and in age we understand." I'm sure it's him, you know. I could look
Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler.
But yo, if a man said something, that's on point. That's what it is. It says, in youth we learn, in age we understand. That's basically the fact. Like we come onto this, when we come in this word, we basically take a faithful step, going in, and then it's just like you're just on your, you know, seek you, let every man be persuaded in his own mind, and then obviously it's like with fear and trembling. What's it? Seek ye salvation or something like. I can't remember it verbatim right now. It's escaping me. But let me read on. It says, "Come unto her as one that ploweth and soweth, and wait for her good fruits. For thou shalt not toil much in laboring about her, but thou shalt eat of her fruits right soon. She is very unpleasant to the unlearned. He that is without understanding will not remain with her. She will lie upon him as a mighty stone of trial, and he will cast her from about her. It be long." Right, and that's the Lord basically exhorted us to take on his burden. He said, "My burden is light," and it's a light. It's basically a light affliction. Right, and basically it's like, look, man, for what you stand to obtain, and that light affliction is basically bearing your cross. Just as Yahweh Shai did. But guess what? We have Yahweh Shai as an example. He had Simon of Arimathea, was it? Not Simon of Arimathea, because it's Joseph of Arimathea. But I know the name was Simon because that was speaking to the prayers that he made prior to him going up on the cross, asking that it be done some other way, that his affliction was heard, because that's what the name Shammai one in the Hebrew means. So his affliction was heard in that he had someone to help him with his burden. So you think we look to the Lord as an example, the same thing's going to be there for us, all right? But we have to take that faithful step and endure whatever is presented before us.
Cyrenian.
That's it, yeah, Simon the Cyrenian. So let me read on. So it says, verse 20, verse 21, "She will lie upon him as a mighty stone of trial, and he will cast her from him it be long, for wisdom is according to her name," all right, "and she is not manifest unto many," all right. Not everyone is wise, all right. There's few that be wise, all right, and that's why the elect have wisdom. Even when you go into it, Deuteronomy 29, our forefathers said, "The secret things belongeth unto us and belongeth unto our children," all right. And I was dealing with the word, because why? This would be our the Lord gave us an inheritance with him, being a covenant, the law, statute, commandments of him, Yahweh Bar Shem El Shai Bar Shem Al Rakar Kodash. And in having that, we would be, the other nations would see us and be like, wow, there's no nation like this that has ways like this, all right? But then guess what? But within that, you have the elect, you have the prophets, you have those that are like the top of the top, the cream of the crop. And they are the people that have this wisdom that's being spoke of, and especially in this time. So let me read the last few verses and I'll give it back to you. Verse 23. "Give ear, my son, receive my advice, and refuse not my counsel, and put thy feet into her fetters, and thy neck into a chain. Bow down thy shoulder and bear her, and be not grieved with her bonds. Come unto her with thy whole heart, and keep thy ways with all thy power. Her ways with all thy power, Salakia. Search and seek, and she shall be made known unto thee. And when thou hast got hold of her, let her not go. For at the last thou shalt find her rest. And that's going to be when Yahushua comes. Because every day we're in this faith, we're shedding off the old man. The old man is dying and the new man is growing, all right, into life. But then the perfection of that is going to come when Yahushua arrives. So that's why we have to, he that endureth unto the end, the same that shall be saved. And you'll see your change come, basically, as Job spoke. For the last thou shalt find her rest, and thou shalt be turned to thy joy. Then shall her fetters be a strong defense for thee, and her chains a robe of glory. For there is a golden ornament upon her, and her bands are purple lace. Thou shalt put her on as a robe of honor, and shalt put her about thee as a crown of joy. Alright, and that's this garment that we have. We're investing, we're putting this, not hiding the money, but we're taking the Lord's money that he gave us, and we're investing in that garment that's ultimately going to be our covering going into, that's what we're going to have when we get going to the marriage of the bridegroom and the lamb. Alright, let me just see. Yeah, that's it. The first 31 is really quickly. Thou shalt put her on as a robe of honor, and shalt put her about thee as a crown of joy.
So back in 1 Peter 1, verse 8, whom having not seen ye love, in whom, though now ye see him not, yet believing, ye rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of glory, receiving the end of your faith, even the salvation of your souls. Yeah, like the brother said, it's enduring to the end, and it's what? It's all in on Yahushua, because that's the key part. That's the key difference between what us when we're keeping the laws, and like the New Testament. This is basically been gained through what the grace that Yahushua offered. So then that's why it comes. It's even though we rehearse the righteous acts, we're not saved by doing the acts.
It's by the will of the Lord ultimately.
Yeah.
So
then, yeah, because then that's where it's like what the like the elect, because those that have been set, it's we're gonna fall short. It's all Israel's gonna fall short, basically. But then it's what? It's the elect that are basically gonna be striving for perfection. We're basically cutting off the old man and renewing ourselves. That's what we're what we're hopeful elect. But that's what the elect are gonna do, and that's why they're gonna get